What's up, you guys? Welcome to We Gotta Speak on It with Quay, and I'm your boy Quay. The reason why we having this conversation is because, a situation came up. Some of y'all saw my video I did about the young man that rode my bus, and it sparked a lot of conversation. So I felt like some men need to get together and talk about it. So we're gonna talk this thing through and try to find out what is the disconnect between some of the youth and some of the fathers, some of the men. And I got a panel, I got a cast full of brothers that's certified, fortified, and ready to get it popping. I got my boy Teddy over here. I got my boy Clarence Jones. I got my cousin Chris, and y'all know I'm Quay. So, how y'all feeling, fellas?
Pretty good, man.
Good.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful.
You wonderful? You good, Chris?
Yeah, it's all good. No idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So, work with us, y'all, with this software because we trying to work through it. But anyway, so again, the conversation that I talked about on my Facebook page was that the young man rode my bus, and the young man actually, he told me he was homeless and that he had been homeless for 2 years. He says dad put him out. His dad put him out because he was being disrespectful. He said he had 2 fights with his father, and his father washed his hands with him pretty much. Father said, I'm done with you, get out of my house. I'm done with you. 20, I guess he was 20 at the time. But he'd been on the street, been homeless for 2 years. He called my bus smelling bad, looking bad, no haircut, same old clothes. And he said he was struggling. He said he was trying to survive. He was trying to find something to eat. He ain't nowhere to stay. He'd been sleeping outside, and I felt for the young man. So I had to try to give him some advice and try to talk to him about what he going to do with his future and what kind of moves he should be making. And, I think I got through to him, but mostly, I got a lot of people talking about it on social media, and people had some thoughts about it. Teddy, you had some thoughts about it. What came to your mind from the video you saw that I was talking about?
So a few things came to mind. First is kids, they don't have this understanding about how to be humble, how to humble yourself. You know what I mean? Say, man, you've been on the streets for 2 years, bro. At some point, you should humble yourself and go back to your daddy. Say, Pops, I apologize. I was wrong. Whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Just to put yourself back in the good graces of the daddy. You know what I mean? If he don't help you at all, then that's his choice. But, put yourself back in that position, man, to humble yourself and let people know that, you know what? I deserve, another chance. I was wrong. People can't do that. And another thing that they don't realize, man, you have a small chance or a small window of opportunity in life, especially as a black man, a black young man. You don't get many chances in this world. You know what I'm saying? Say, man, there's certain things that you can do when you're young that can mess up your whole career path. That shit can really derail any chance that you may ever have. And they don't realize that. And it's up to us as parents to kind of give them that understanding.
Absolutely. And just to add some context, because I did ask him that. I said, bro, did you try to contact your father again? Did you hit him? Did you try to apologize? What he said was, he said some kind of way, somewhere along the line, he had a restraining order on his dad. He couldn't even be around him. So it's a crazy situation because some type of way defects got involved and all kind of stuff. And basically he couldn't even go around his dad. So, it's a crazy situation, but I'm of the mindset that, parenting starts way before, obviously he gets to be that age. So at somewhere along the line, there was a disconnect, and these kids, man, you can give them everything. You can give them everything they want. You give them the world. You can really lay out the red carpet for them, especially compared to what we went through. And I'm not saying we went through it bad, but they were definitely much more blessed than us. A lot of our kids. Speaking for myself, and I know some of y'all brothers doing pretty well. So we try to make sure our kids have everything that we didn't have. And again, man, I think that sometimes you can't predict how a child respond when they get to a certain age. Sometimes it is it might be some things the father could have did differently, or some red flags could have seen earlier. I don't know what you think, Fook.
Well, I'm always go on the biblical aspect when it comes to a lot of things, and uh the first thing is training up a child
Mm-hmm.
from his youth up. First you got to respect your father. Honor thy father and thy mother. Um, where there's no honor, um, you're gonna have that disrespect. You're gonna have those arguments and those fights, and you know, uh, ultimately short life. Um, when you're dealing with this social media society, uh, you see so many people disrespecting elders. These youngsters, they are just the most disrespectful people on the planet. Our people, man, is just the most hateful. I I can say I see that our people are the youngsters are the most hateful people I have ever seen. There's no respect for one another, let alone um, the elders. And
Mm-hmm.
um, like Brother Teddy said, if he would have went back to his dad, with open arms and truthfully apologized, he could have been just like that prodigal child. Pops would have accepted him, with open arms and brought him back in, and help uh, recondition his mind on on the next time on how to deal with situations when it comes to parenting. Because you know we tend to be our children's friends because we still kind of young, but uh, we're not friends. I'm your parent, and that's where it's going to stop at. And I think that some of these kids today, they want to be their parents' friends, and that's where the disrespect starts.
What you think about that, Chris? Like, could the
Yeah,
father and the son, could they have avoided it some kind of way, or do you think the issue could have been, handled a different way? What you think about it overall? What you
but
hear?
I agree with both of y'all on what y'all said, but when it comes to the kids and parenting, it's always different. Every child is different. Every situation is different. Every parenting skill level is different.
Mm-hmm.
None of us have a guidebook to it, right? We kind of see what our parents did, but you can't really base what your parents did or other people the way they parent their kids to that your kids gonna take everything the same way.
Right.
I say like some people they have kids that just follow exactly what they say, and some just have them hard headed kids or the kids that want to rebel or do their own thing, and you can't force it. You know what I mean? You can't force it on them. But I agree though. The little guy should have went back to his dad, and if he was sincere enough, any parent, most 9 times out of 10,
Mhm.
will open their heart for their kid because that's what they really want anyway. Is the
Yeah.
best for them, and you could forgive anything, if they sincere about it. So that's how I feel about it.
Right. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Fook, you said something too, and I agree totally, Chris. Fook, you say you can't be their friend. And I think that's one of the things that one of the biggest dilemmas, I think, especially in our generation, I'm gonna say, between like us between 45 and 50 or whatever, and beyond maybe a little bit, give or take 5 years. But I think a lot of us overcompensated, and we talked about this probably in another episode at some point about parenting, but a lot of us fell into the trap of overcompensating. And I think when we say don't be their friend, it's like, you know, how we don't it don't come with a manual parenting, right? So us, as adults, a lot of us, we grew up, we had our own experiences as kids, and a lot of times we just kind of did what was done, or we did the opposite of what was done because we felt like what was done wasn't necessary. So I think the overcompensation of trying to get along or trying to just be on good terms with it's a fine line you got to walk. And I think I mean, how would you describe to walk that line? I mean, do you play with your kids? Do you joke with them? Do you? I mean, obviously, we know something like smoking weed with them, all this kind of stuff is,
Mhm.
and some may say at a certain age that that's cool. I mean, I just can't. Nah. But anyway, what do y'all think that line is between being a friend and being a parent? Like how do we talk that through? What does that look like?
So I would say this, man. I think the most important thing to parenting, especially when you have more than one kid, is to
Hmm.
understand who your children are. You know what I mean? If you understand who your children are on a personal level, then you can talk with them directly on that level. You know what I mean? Because I have two girls, and both of them are totally opposite of each other. So me as a person, I know who they are, and I talk with them to their level of understanding. They
Hmm.
know that yeah, I can be friendly with you, but when I say shit, I mean shit. You know what I mean? There's a difference with with my girls. And again,
Yeah.
I treat them differently because they're different people, but I still want the same outcome. And I think that's the bottom line when it comes to rearing kids, to understand who your kids are. I couldn't, I can't raise my kids how my mom raised me. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is not that same world, first of all. It's not to do as I say because I said it. That's not the way that I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted them to be able to ask questions of me if I gave them something to do. It's not disrespectful if you ask me, well, why are you asking me to do this? Or why are you telling me to do this? To me, that's not
Okay.
disrespectful. You feel me? But at the same time, I tell my kids, this is how I am. When it comes to your grandmother, she's not like that. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because that's who
In the
she
old
is.
school.
She's old
Yeah.
school, right? So when she say it,
Hmm.
that's what she means. That's what she wants. Just get to it. But that
Mhm.
comes with a level of understanding. You know what I mean? So that's the way that I go at them. And
Right.
everything's been fine, man. We have our problems, but again, I understand how to deal with them personally and not treat them as they're the
Mhm.
same person.
Right. 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 What do you think, Fook? What does that look like for you, Fook? How do you balance that?
Well, I also have two daughters.
Hmm.
My wife and I, uh, we have a great relationship. My daughters, both of my daughters and I, um, uh, you know, growing up together in one household makes it a lot much easier, for the kids. Um, I tend to let their mother like give them the feminine wisdom, um, and I instill in them, um, you know, uh, the chastening, you know, uh, how to keep yourself, you know, and not, be out there like some people, you know. So I think, when we do have a two parent household, it takes um a lot stress off of also the children, trying to find um certain things on the outside what they will be missing if you had, both parents, you know uh even if you was to even have two boys and a mother raising the two boys by themselves, they will be looking for that that uh that discipline, because I wanted to be disciplined, but I didn't really want to be disciplined by my mama. We just be just looking for that male figure to be stern and keep us in check. So since we didn't have that, some of us didn't have, that male figure, we took other avenues, and um, the streets taught most of us. And that's where our generation, birthed some of these monsters, because uh we had it a little rougher. Um, and we didn't want to, like the brother said, we didn't want to teach our children, or we didn't want to have our children not to have the same things we had. So we take it a little easier on them, and that's what's making it, I think, a lot harder uh, for them, because they don't have those old school ways instilled in them, and I think that's what's missing.
Okay. Okay. Chris, what you think? Is there a way to balance that, to be a friend and a stern father? Or I mean, can that be done? What does it look like for you? What do you think?
Well, you could try for sure to be,
Uh-huh.
more. I'm, I'm saying you don't want to be on a child's level, right? Like you don't want it to get too comfortable, like you one of the homeboys or something like that. But at the same time, I never wanted to have my kids at an arm's length away from me where they didn't really even know me. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought back growing up, and not, no disrespect to our elders and nothing like that. But some of the when we were growing up, I didn't really know my parents like that, to be honest with you. Like
Uh-huh.
really know that I know them now as an
Uh-huh.
adult. I learned a lot of stuff later on where as when we were kids growing up, I didn't really have that relationship like a close, not I'm not saying like I wanted them to be my friends, hang out with me in that type of way, but at least know something about them. Like, you know, about them as a person, as an individual, rather than just my parent, just the person that's, disciplining me and stuff like that. You kind of want to have that type of relationship. I think that's healthy for them to
Uh-huh.
actually know who you are and not hide your real self from them. Um, but it's a catch-22 because you just never know. We're trying to parent for this day and age, right? So it's different from the way
Uh-huh.
we was raised. But they got new things that's out there, and we have some ways on us. So you kind of got to tiptoe a little bit because sometimes it could come out wrong, and that's not nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? Because you're gonna make that mistake sometimes. With my boys, I got two boys, so sometimes I just say stuff regular. Like if I'm talking to Q, or I'm talking to, you know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
like we from a different era, so we just we just say stuff and it's not disrespectful, and we don't
Uh-huh.
take it as hurt feelings or anything like that. But this generation of kids, they would, you know what I'm saying? So
Uh-huh.
you got to be careful about that for sure.
Absolutely. I wanna I want to get into from two different sides, and Seven just hit on something right there. I want to definitely talk about. Um, Tiffany, what up, Tiff? Tiff say, true. Once a kid gets to a certain age, they think they are more grown than we are, and they think they make decisions on their own. We can only do our best and leave the rest in God's hand. Seven, my boy Seven Prominent said it's hard for some adults to maintain rent and living expenses, let alone a 20-year-old. That alone that along with the fact most people don't know what to do with their life at his age, at 20 years old, but they're at a grown age. That's where the bumping heads comes into play. And I think it speaks to both sides can be broken, right? Like you said, because the new era, we talking about the sensitivity social media has truly did a number on our kids, man. Like technology, this the head down era. No, this is the non-social, you know, and they are more sensitive. They are more alert. They are more aware. They're smarter with a lot of ways, but they don't know how to regulate their emotions a lot of time, And on the flip side of that, you got the adults that got their own trauma and drama going on, trying to survive. Again, like I said, this don't come in no manual. So these are real people trying to tame and trying to somewhat regulate relationships with real people. Once they come a certain age, it gets harder and harder. So the work you put in when they was younger is probably gonna start, paying off. And it still might change on you, like we was talking about. I mean, it's just a matter of the personality of the kid, personality of the adult, because ultimately communication has to be good. You got to be good communicators, good listeners. and a lot of people lack in a lot of areas. So that's where it breaks down at, I think. But you know, when it comes to, you know, the kids, you know, being the social media area, how much y'all think the era and the technology played a part on just like, you know, being having a harder time to connect with these kids, the influence? Y'all think that's a big part of the issue?
I think that's a huge part, not just
Mm-hmm.
because of trying to connect with your kid, but more
Mm-hmm.
so of your kid disconnecting from you because of what they see. You know, they see other people that's in their age group, age range, and they look at their social media and think that this is how it is. You know, so now
Mm-hmm.
they disconnect from you as a parent, you know, and they don't really understand. Like let's go back when we were 20 years old. At 20 years old, I can say 100% that I was more advanced than the 20-year-old these days. I lived on my own at 20 years old. Do
Uh,
you think that most of these 20-year-old kids out here are ready for a life like that? I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think they have this idea that life is just so easy. They don't understand, man. Like you don't understand how to pay bills yet. You don't
mm-hmm.
understand anything that goes along with being an adult yet. Just because you're 20 years old, that don't mean shit. You know, and I'll go back to what I said earlier, man. Just the simplest things that they do at this point in their life can really derail anything that they may want to do in the future. And they don't understand that shit. You know what I mean? Just the smallest thing like your credit shit. Hey man, you messed that shit up right now? Boy, you gonna have to do shit that you need to do versus the things that you want to do. When I was
Mm-hmm.
20, I didn't have this understanding that I have now. So the life that I live was out of necessity. The life that I provide for my daughters is not necessity. They can do what they want to do. That's a comfort. You feel me? So they can make decisions out of a level or position of comfort versus a position of needing to make a decision. And that's what we should do as parents to provide that comfortability for our kids until they're ready to get out there. Just because they're 20 or 21, that don't mean we need to put them out on the street. That's my position.
Absolutely. I totally get it, man. I totally agree with you because I think that again, social media, the influence of all this technology, like it's funny. You said something that about how when we was younger, we was more advanced. We was further along. Like you said, we was able to do more. We like at 20, a lot of us had our own apartments, stuff like that. Kids are staying home now longer. But the reason for that, I think, is because at the same time, you know, the changes of the time, you know, that everything is so high and you know, it's tough to just maintain the, you know, like a one-room apartment back then. You could handle it with one job, you know, like a little regular job, but you could work at McDonald's damn near, and you could afford a $600 a month apartment or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, a lot of us was able to do that, but nowadays one room apartment is like what, $1,500 for a one-room apartment. And it's like it's almost like not possible for a kid that's 20 unless they're making almost like 60,000 a year, almost like, you know, you know, to maintain just an apartment. They got to go with the roommates and stuff like that. They're doing it different now. So when things change, and it's crazy, man, because, you know, when we think about that, you know, then you got the mental health, you know, the food is kind of like playing a big part. There's a lot of autistic cases that's coming about. There's a lot of different, you know, these different effects of the food, and kids are born with certain mental illnesses and mental health issues, and all these things are just playing such a big part. But the one thing, Teddy, you said that when a kid is ready, you know, you put them out. I want to ask y'all, is there like an age? What are you looking for when you think your kid is ready to say, you know what, you got to get out of here? You've been here, you old enough. What's that limit where you think is you too old to be here? Is there an age limit for y'all or
Not for
what?
me. That's up to them.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. It feel like once I feel like they ready to be out there and they feel like they're ready, as long as, of course, if you're living under your parents' house, you're living by their rules, right? So as long as that's cool and understood, and they're not, doing nothing, messing around in the street, nothing like that,
Right.
I don't have no problem. They can stay here as long as they want. You know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have
And that's
nothing
what
but
I
empty
told
rooms if they wasn't here. you know,
Mm-hmm.
right?
told my daughter, because my oldest, she's about to be a junior in college. I told her, once she gets into her profession, stay here as long as you need to. Save that money. But while you're working, I'm gonna have you pay to stay here. Not much, just a little, so you'll understand what it's going to be like when you do be on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever she gives me, I will be putting that into a savings, of course. And when she's ready, okay, that I wants to be on my own, or 24, 25, okay, so here's all that money back that I collected from you to start you off, and not you starting off with ground zero. you know I think that we as parents now today are able to um help our children a lot more than when we were just stepping out. Because when we stepped out with nothing. I know I didn't have nothing when I started.
Mm-hmm.
uh uh like you say, things was cheaper, but we wasn't getting paid as much either. But over time, um we earned a little more, and then everything just got a little higher, and we just searched for better jobs and side hustles. And as today's kids, will they be willing to work those extra jobs, side hustles? And I mean, today, man, these children have it so easy. They can make millions of dollars sitting right here behind the screen, and we didn't have that opportunity. But it's all on the child, after they pass I'm still a baby stage,
Mm-hmm.
to really want to go out there and really get it, because there's a lot of money out there to be made, and it's at everybody's fingertips.
Yeah.
Today I don't believe nobody should really be struggling to make uh ends meet when there's millions of opportunities today.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think knowledge definitely is power, and a lot of people just don't know some of the ways. But I agree with both of you guys. Like Chris, like you said, man, it's not an age. It's not something that is like it's when they're ready. And Fook, you said you're gonna save their money and get their money to them. I think that's a good plan as well. I mean, me personally, I'd rather them just stack their own money and get ready. But it really brings me to the thought process of what are we doing to monitor the progress to get them ready to get out to do their own thing. So if we just making sure that they do certain things, it kind of should happen naturally, right? Like if they got a job, they're making money. Eventually, they're gonna meet somebody. They're gonna want their own space, or they got duties around the house, things that they got to do that you're asking them to maintain. And I think to the story I'm talking about with this guy, this 22-year-old got put out of his house. Again, like y'all say, age at 22, most people would say it's a grown man, but as I'm talking to this young man, you can see mentally he wasn't ready.
Still a kid.
He's still a kid, like literally still a kid. I almost wanted to think the direction that he could have been autistic a little bit, but he definitely appeared to still be a kid. So when we think back to the old days and the old school, the old parents, some of the philosophies and the strategies they use, like when you hit 18, get out of my house.
Out
When
of
you
here.
hit 21, get out of my house. And don't get me wrong, some people worked out all right. Some
Yeah.
people, they literally got kicked down the street, found their way. But like Teddy, like we all say, it was easier though back then. Things were cheaper, things were a little easier. But now, shoot, man, you get a minimum wage can't pay no single room apartment. I mean, it's just not like it used to be. So, but yeah, man, it's so many different things that come to mind when we think about like, like how these kids end up the way they are in a disconnect. But if you put them out too early before they're ready, a lot of time that child gonna fail, man, because they're not ready. Like, what did you do to prepare that child for the real world? Like, what did you arm them with? Like some of these, and I don't want to like, say like this, but some people establish a lot more in life. Like a lot of them white folks, you know what I mean? Like they might leave behind a business or a car or something real nice. So they get a chance to have a jump start, and you're giving them something to help them in life. You're giving them $100,000, like old Trump, whatever. What his daddy gave him, y'all? His daddy gave him $1 million
Mhm.
a few times, right? But
Yeah.
he walking around talking about Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, man, I'm just saying like how we set them up is ultimately going to, affect how they do and their ability to lead and be successful. So I think, all those things come into play, man. What are some of the mistakes y'all think in general, like say like some of the breakdown, what a communication that between a man and a son, like to end up having a fight, like to actually end up in a physical fight, what do you think your son would have to do or say to you as men to where you have to actually put your hands on your son and fight him like a grown man? What did you say about that, Teddy?
I mean, man, it can be to be real, man. It's it's like the law of nature. I would imagine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When a child, when a young man thinks that he's a man, then he wants to challenge the man of the house, right? I mean, there's anything that you can do when you see it coming, then you have to stop that shit in the beginning. Like, nah, son, we ain't gonna do it like that. You know what I mean? I am still your father, and I will f you up if need be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but like somebody said earlier, that starts way in the beginning of the child's life. You know what I mean? Yeah, that starts way in the beginning of the child's life. And again, man, it's all about an understanding that you have to develop with your kids. You
Mm-hmm.
have to develop that understanding, man. If you, when you understand them, you can deal with them. You can get to
Mm-hmm.
them on an intellectual level. You feel me? You can talk to them on the emotional level to get them to understand where you're coming from. And I think
Yes.
all of that plays a big role in dealing with your kids. You can't overlook that. You can't just say, I'm the man of the house and you're going to do what I say you're going to do. That shit don't fly anymore. Kids now, you have to, you got to show them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They have to understand who you are. Like Chris was saying, I didn't really know my mom until I became an adult. Then I understood who she was. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So you have to get that with them early. You can't just
Yeah.
sit back, and let time go by because that's a time you can never get back.
Yeah. And I think it's the resentment that's building up, I'm asking you too, for I know this is something that we don't, as men, we never want to think about this. So you never want to think about having to fight your damn child, right? I mean, it's something that we definitely would never want to have to do. So that's not something that we're gonna be happy to talk about. But how to avoid it. And what would it take for you to feel like it's necessary to have to, you know, fight your child or protect yourself against your child, or whatever the case may be?
For me, I never believed in hitting on my kids or nothing like that, or even chastising them that way, because I didn't like it when I was growing up. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So I was like, I'd never want to hit on my kids or nothing like that. Even if it's a situation where, well, it's a little different because I don't have the type of household where we get into those type of arguments like that. But when I have to get into that type of argument, you see what I'm saying? My kids feel it like in a different type of way because
Mm.
they don't see me upset like that. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have to put hands on them for them to
Right.
feel me. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
feel me. We get into altercation. That's gonna happen. Not that much in my household though,
Yeah.
but if it do come down to that, it's something real. You know what I mean? And I don't have to put my hands. I don't think I would ever fight my kid. My son could probably swing on me, and I could catch him and restrain him before I literally fight. I can't imagine me fighting my son. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or any of my kids. But if it
Yeah.
came to that, then you got to go, bro. You can't be. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That the respect level have to be there for my wife. You know what I mean? Our household, what we provide, all the stuff we do for them. You know what I mean? That all have to be there. It just can't be. I'm just gonna let you go. You know, try to take over. You know, there's only one king in the castle in here. You know, what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it to you like that.
That's
But
it.
I never had to put hands on them like that.
I totally agree with that, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like that's a tough one. It's a tough topic because again, we don't want to even think about hitting our kids, fighting our son
Yeah.
and our kids. So, and I only brought it up because the young man, the story that I talked about, he said he had a couple of fights with his father before his father put him out. And I just think to like where, like how could you get to a place like where could the disconnect have come in to the point to where, and I know, don't get me wrong, I think chastising can go too far, or the son can try to defend himself or hit back or whatever. Just coming from an angle of chastising or forcefully enforcing rules. You know what I mean? Like like I guess if your child tried to attack you, yeah, you defend yourself, but you don't want to try to like hurt them. You don't want to hurt your child, right?
Yeah.
So but I think about the resentment, and I think about like like a lot of young men are growing up without a father. Like we all present fathers, like we all like we take care of our kids, but there's a whole nother society of kids and grown men who grew up without their father, never had a father, and I want to talk about that too because even though none of us never been through it, I'm sure we can relate to it because we got partners, like all my partners, none of them had a father almost. So I've seen what they've been through. It's like, and I'm thankful for my father. Matter of fact, I think I can say that on air. I think matter of fact, I can say that right now. I'm thankful he stood around, and it definitely influenced me to be a stand up man and stay around and take care of my kids and stuff like that. But when it comes to the resentment and when it comes to things that can take place for the father not to be around, is there any situation y'all could think of that that you wouldn't be around, that will keep you away from your child? Is there anything that you think could ever keep you away from your child, being the father that you are?
Nah.
Nothing.
So for me, man, I didn't have my father in my life. I met him when I was 17 years old, and by that time I was on my way to the Marine Corps. You know what I mean? But even in his absence, there's always a lesson. You know what I'm saying? It depends on how you choose to look at it. Because he wasn't there, I'm like, you know what? I can never be like that. So that taught me that lesson there. Like, nah, I know how it was when he wasn't there. So I need to be there for my girls. I need to be there for my kids. You know what I mean? So you take anything that you come across, man, you take it as a lesson. You know what I'm saying? So, but there's no, there's one of my partners, man, he have kids. He's not necessarily there, but he pays child support. You know what I mean? There's a whole thing where he get him during the summer, and he want to lessen his payment because he have them during the summer type stuff. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, come on. I would pay to have my kids. You feel me? So I can't. That part I don't understand. So I can never
Yeah.
be away from them. There's nothing that can say or nothing that they can do. My wife can do anything and say, you know what, I don't want to be here. It's never a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's deep, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's definitely deep. What you think, Clarence?
Well, I did not grow up with my dad, and I resented him, and I actually hated him for many, many years.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't understand, of course, because I was, a little kid. Um, it wasn't until maybe 20 years ago that we really became closer and almost best friends. You know, yeah, he was. I came back from Cali in '94, but really didn't have no relationship with him. I mean, I used to pop up by his job, and it was almost like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" I mean, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm almost 20 years old. Like I only seen you probably 10 times. If I can count on my fingers, like if
Mm,
it's my child pop up, I'm lit up. Like, but
mm,
now really, we have like the greatest relationship, and I understand now what he went through, um and why it took so long. I know he loved me, but I just didn't see it because I didn't have that one-on-one relationship with him, or
mhm,
we never spent the night in the same house together uh, uh, until maybe 4 years ago.
mhm.
But I still sometimes have to work on myself, of course, because sometimes I think about that, and I have to ask, within myself, ask God, like, forgive me, because you know we still have that. We still go back and forth, of course, because I'm a little older, and sometimes I have a little um a little anger, but um I don't go disrespectful. We would just be talking, and I kind of like uh just go mute. I won't say nothing because I don't want to be disrespectful, because he is still my father. And again, I go biblical, and we supposed to honor our father and our mother. So
Mhm.
I try to keep it respectful. Um, but I'm very blessed that he's in my life, and my children and my wife.
Yeah,
Very, very, very much.
absolutely. Hey, I
This
kind of
is
want to
so-
ask y'all a little bit, man, because I think a lot of women, a lot of people want to know like why men aren't around. And I think, us being fathers, we present fathers, y'all fathers. Teddy, did you ever find out, did your father ever give you a reason that he wasn't, or did you understand at some point what the issue was? Or was it just maturity?
well, man, let me tell you, to be real with you, that was never my concern to even wonder. There's no resentment, there's no hate or anything like that. I just didn't care. You know what I mean? I do understand how life works.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I understood that as a kid. I understand how life works. I understand how shit works. You know what I mean? Even especially since I started dating and I had a girlfriend, like, man, I can't stay around this girl. So I understood, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
how things work. So it never was a thing to even act. It's not my
Yeah.
business. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, if that's what you wanted, then you make it happen. If you can't make it happen, like, I'm good. I didn't really want for much. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And Fuka, did you ever get an answer for? Did you ever figure out what it was with your father? Was it just maturity? Was it just like something going on with him personally? Because we don't consider a lot of times the mental health and things that our fathers, the damage, unhealed trauma that they've been through. We don't always think about that. Obviously, we just we don't know. It's not our concern. We just know you ain't there. Did you ever
Right.
figure out or find out what the issue was?
Well, at that time, we talking about 1975.
Mm,
Uh, uh, he and his wife was separated, and during the separation, that's where he met my mom.
got you. Mm.
And then after that, they got back together, and it was like
You was
I got
outcast.
family. I
Mm,
got I'm married, and So, and some females, some ladies can, will use your children as pawns. And that's another thing that really destroys, these young children. Uh, and when, a dad or a father wants to be in a child life, but the mother don't want him to be in a child life and use that against him, can say some nasty things and have the children thinking, my dad ain't never did this, and he always been a bum, but could really be the woman just saying these things to hurt the man, hurt the father,
Yeah.
which actually hurts the child in the long run. And that, you know, uh that's a hurtful thing to, for a mother to do that to their child.
Uh,
I think that's a real low blow.
yeah, absolutely. And I think man, y'all hitting on some big points, man, because I think a lot of kids that are out of wedlock and things like that happening, the child end up, like you said, not seen for or properly, parented because one parent is trying to do something else, a whole family, or whatever the case may be. And it's like it damages so many kids, that carelessness of the adults, Um, and when you talk about the like all the issues that the father probably possibly had been through, and the mother also is stopping him from seeing his children, you know. I mean, I know so many cases where dudes is like trying to be fathers, man, and they're like, and the girl or the baby mama is putting them through the ringer. And at some point, brothers, at some point they wear down. At some point, they're like, they're choosing their own mental peace over constantly fighting and going to jail and getting fighting her new boyfriends and being threatened and being cussed out and being ran up on and all this ghetto crazy toxic activity, trying to be, a father and trying to do the right thing. Some brothers are literally being ran from being fathers, and nobody want to really talk about that. It's like it's kind of understood thing, like, well, you should want to go through the fire for your child, and you should for the most part. But everybody, I think we all have, to self, kind of like maintain ourselves. We all have to, somewhat keep ourselves together. Our mental health is important. So, people make decisions, man, and I think it's terrible when it happens. But like, Chris, how many people like dudes that got kids and don't take care of them? Like, have you ever heard a reason why brothers are not in their kids' life?
Yeah, a lot of, just like you said, sometimes the mother has some type of resentment towards them if they're not together or something like that. There's, you with somebody else or something like that. All kind of situation like that. I was lucky that I didn't have to go through that with my son mom, but we, I'm kind of different with that. She know I'm not a give up person. I don't have that gene.
Yeah.
So I'm super persistent when it comes to my kid. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we kind of came to agreement with that. That's why my son with me now. You know what I mean? But it's I know a lot of brothers that went through that. A lot of brothers that based on your relationship feelings, that's still not resolved. They don't want to see you doing good. It's vice versa. Sometimes it's the dude that's the toxic one. You just don't know.
Yeah.
They go both ways.
Absolutely.
Right. Some dudes get mad because they see the woman with somebody else, and they don't want to have nothing to do with the kids because the woman moved on from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that can happen too. It's a lot of different things that go on in that.
Right. But Chris, you say you super persistent. Did your son's mother ever try to stop you from seeing him at all? Did you ever have to like put that to the test?
Yeah, in the beginning, we had to get on the same page. I would say that.
Okay.
You know, it was a process for sure.
Mhm.
It was like a long, it took some time for us to really get to the level where,
Yeah.
you know, she was willing to let him come live with me for sure.
That's a major shout out to her because,
Yeah,
like I said, man, a
yeah,
lot of women, man, are so vindictive and they're
yeah,
not easy to work with,
yeah,
Like say, like a lot of fellas are going through the ringer trying to, just schedule pickup appointments and trying to go in like this small little things, they're getting ran around the ringer, and I don't know if it's maybe it's no good excuse to not father your child. Let me just say that
yeah.
because I think ultimately it's going to be our fault regardless if she's putting you through that or not, you still lay down with her. So, it's kind of a bad choice on, the man's part. But I do think a lot of brothers out there, man, a lot of sisters, it's like, men ain't present for their kids. And a lot of time, they don't know why. They don't understand why. I think there's a lot of things because a lot of brothers are saying women are, not allowing them to be in their kids' life. Some of them are trying to dictate all the terms. When men really put their foot down and try to be men and say, nah, I don't want this to go like this. You know, she started using kids as a pawn or and stuff like that start happening. So I'm just saying a lot of things go on that damages these relationships. And I think parenting has to be done properly. They got to be on the same page, like you and your son's mother, Chris, stuff like that. And it's easier said than done. But people who are going through it in real time, it's a time from what I'm seeing.
It's another thing though. You could be in your child's life,
Hmm.
but not in your child's life too. You could
Yes,
be not present
yes,
um with your child. Far as my relationship now with my father is different than it was when I was young. I learned a lot from him, from seeing somebody that I always admired. He always went to work. He always dressed nice to go to work. Stuff like, just seeing that always put that in my head. But like I say, he was very private growing up.
hmm,
He wasn't like, I didn't know a whole lot about him. We lived in the same house. You know what I mean? My parents were together,
hmm,
but we didn't
Yeah,
know
parents
a lot
then
about
were
him.
more private than today.
Yeah, yeah,
Very,
hmm,
very
very
private.
private.
Just like I think it was Chris. You say you didn't really know uh your parents and when we was in the same household with our parents, it was a respect that we didn't walk in the same room when they were talking, or they had company. We're not allowed to be in the same in the room. You go somewhere else. Now today it's totally different. They all in your face. They repeating everything, and they're nothing but sponges. They gonna do exactly what they see and say what say what they hear.
yeah,
Uh, and it could be damaging. It could be damaging. You know,
yeah.
with the very first moment, at the time, my girlfriend, when she told me that, I think I'm pregnant, I said, well, we gonna go to the hospital. We're gonna go to the doctor. We're gonna see. And if you are, you're packing and you're moving with me. She said, for real? I said, for real. Because I told her straight up, I said, I am not about to raise a child in two separate households.
That's dope.
Because that is where I didn't have that growing up. So I told her, I said, I do not want my child to be raised in two separate households. So when we find out, and if you are, you're moving with me. And when we found out that week, she packed and she came move with me, and we've been together ever since
Yeah,
2004.
that's
2004.
amazing. That's commendable, man. That's amazing, bro. You deserve a round of applause for that one. I ain't gonna lie, because that's
No, no.
amazing, bro. Because a lot of
Hey,
brothers ain't moving like that, you know.
right. You know what? Let me say this as well, man. Sometimes it's a benefit for one of the parents to not be in the house. You know what I mean? Because some people just aren't good parents. and we have
Mm,
to understand that and recognize that too. You know, sometimes it's not a good thing for that person to be around your kids, even though you may have laid up with them, laid down with them, had a child, but he's not a good. He's not a good person. You know what I mean? They don't bring anything necessarily to the table that you would like to rear your child with.
mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sometimes it's a good thing that they're not there.
And
And
to
that
add,
goes back to picking the person that you laying down with.
mhm,
The woman um has to know that this man is a provider and a protector, and if she gets pregnant, will he provide for her and the child and protect them? If not, there's a question that are you sane
right.
for laying down with a person like that?
Hey, and that's the thing, the carelessness of the parents. Yeah, that's what ultimately starts it all. But like Teddy was saying, sometimes not being together in the household can be a benefit. And I would go even further and not say just because they're not a good parent, but if they're not good together. If they're not a good example
Yeah,
of what a happy household and good healthy relationship is, that
Mhm.
that child might end up being less damaged by seeing the fights, the fusses, the the drama,
Right.
the trauma, than not. So yeah, in that case, it might be better if that child grew up with the father not in the household. But yeah, I think best case scenario, like folks said, like Clarence said, both parents in the household, parents get along good. Father is being a good example. Mother is being a good example. The chemistry is there. They're a good example for the kids. Kids kids can pick up a lot of bad too in a dysfunctional household. So definitely that's a fact. And Chris, you were saying something earlier too, man. That was powerful. He was talking about, being able to communicate, like I was saying earlier, man, to your kids. Like a lot of kids grew up not being told, I love you. A lot of kids grew up not being acknowledged, not being, having the time taken out, put time into them. And sometimes it could just be a result of having too many damn kids. Cause, back in the day, man, you had people had 10, 12 kids. Just imagine how each kid lacked the ability to feel special. I mean, like, how can you feel special in a house full of 12 you like, you like one of the litter. you like the litter. But yeah, you are, so yeah, us as men, I think specifically as men, being able to express, show up for our kids, talk to them, teach our young boys how to be men, communicate to them love, and, give them an example of what love is and stuff like that, and be the leaders that we should be. This probably should be our goal, all of our goal. You got guys that just can't communicate. They lack in certain areas. So the kids are growing up with a deficit. They don't have a parent that has a certain skill set. So, and once they get older, they realize that, oh, I can't try to rationalize with dad or mom or whatever, because they're just not capable of hearing me. Every time I try to, try to communicate, it's just not getting through or whatever case may be. So people learn styles and they learn how to navigate through all that. But a lot of people grow up with a deficit. You don't have everything in the household that you need. And a lot of time it come out to be a good thing, because whatever we lack or whatever we lose, we get stronger in those areas because we learn to communicate and move without it. So, it can be a benefit in another area in life, right? So, but yeah, man, I just want to have this conversation, bro, because us fellas, us men, fathers, I think the word is that especially black men are not taking care of their kids, and we know that's a lie. There's more black men taking care of their kids than not. Just people, the media would have you believe that we're not present, we're not trying to be involved, we're not involved. Reality is that most black men are present, are taking care of their kids, whether they're in or outside the household. They're taking care of their kids or they're trying, whatever the case may be. Now, we know money ain't everything, but financially, obviously, everybody needs money. But being in presence, it definitely is the main thing. And most I think black men are present. Their kids know who they are. They have a relationship, and they're trying to do the best they can. So, but anyway, y'all, I'm not going to keep y'all too much. I appreciate y'all fellas for joining me, helping me round out this conversation because I can't, you know what I mean, I can't give all these perspectives on my own. You know, y'all added so much to it that, you know, I know a lot of people gonna be able to chew at this information. So, but appreciate y'all again, man. Whoever watching, don't forget to hit the like button. Please subscribe to the podcast. Leave a comment, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Let me know what you feel. And until next time, we out. Peace.
Salute.
Salute.